Well, it's a startup show, 10 a.m. each Friday morning. We're here with you to talk about startup. My name's John Wren, and I've been working with people who are starting new businesses for a long time, over 20 years. And during that time, we've held a startup workshop that 5280 Magazine says has infused Denver with an entrepreneurial spirit. I hope that's true. Attendance has dropped erratically. Back when we first started doing it, we were the only game in town, and now there's all kinds of things out there for startups, most of which, I guess I truly, humbly say everything except what I'm doing actually hurts startups. You know what? And I may hurt them too. It's really hard to tell. But what I know for sure is that the small business administration approach to startup is just flat not how successful new businesses actually get started, with careful market research, careful strategic planning. Amar Bahidi's researched this carefully. They see it at Babson. The president wrote a book called Just Start. That's what the successful startup does, is they just start. And that's what we're doing today. I'm going to be trying that myself again. It doesn't mean it always works, but if you fail, it will be at a very low cost as compared to betting the farm on a plan, hoping other people are going to let you bake money off of them to start. I like what Mark Cuban says: nobody but a fool would borrow money for a startup. So today, though, is going to be a little bit different. There's been this Supreme Court ruling. I haven't read the ruling, but I've seen it online here being tweeted and Facebook messaged that the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of gay marriage for our country. And right away, I'm going to be viewed as a hater, as I have been on this. And it's just not, just because the Supreme Court says something is right, that does not make it right. They said slavery. The Dred Scott decision said you had to return slaves. Did that make that right? No, of course not. And so this is just one point in what appears to be promising to be a long, drawn-out battle, unless everybody just rolls over. And maybe the church is going to do that. If the church, it's been impotent, really. 10 years ago, I became Catholic. It was amazing to me how little the church was doing in this area. And I actually had a personal conversation with the Archbishop of Denver at that time. And he said, we've looked at it carefully and we'll definitely win at the Supreme Court level. So they just didn't dirty themselves with the fight. Colorado Catholic Conference, and I suppose it's not the hired help's fault, although if the hired help is not recommending a fight, nobody's going to want to get into a fight. And there should have been a fight on this starting long ago. And the Catholics have just kind of stayed above it all. And they have not educated on this issue. And Pope Francis is, pandering, trying to bring people into the church. And the church membership is dropping like a rock as he does that. I mean, why even be Catholic is what most people say. Even Catholics think that. Now, I don't say that. I have specific reasons I'm Catholic. I'm grateful for this leaky clay pot. At its best, it's not all that great, but it holds this divine spark of truth that makes it all worthwhile. And I value that tremendously. But I'm going to be talking about something I'm going to start here today. And but first, a message from our sponsor. And I pretty much wear all the hats on as far as people that really devote a lot of their time to this show. Our sponsor, the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. It's a Colorado nonprofit corporation. It's less than nonprofit. It's no money in, no money out. This has been a work of a labor of love of mine. I love what 5280 Magazine says. Thank you. I hope it's true. We've been doing something radically different ever since I had a TV show and started getting a group together to kind of promote the show. And It took on a life of its own. It became the Idea Association, then the Idea Cafe, now the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. And hopefully we help people. I read a book, Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone. It talked about how social capital was just disappearing across the country, and that's really true. He's a sociologist, wrote an article about this fact of dropping what he calls social capital, that it's going away. And one of his students at an alumni function at Harvard came up to me and said, "Oh, Dr. Putnam, I really agree with that article you just wrote." He said, "I'm in the bowling business, and it used to be league bowling was a big thing, but now people come in and they just bowl alone." And so that's what he picked up as the title for the book that he came out when he expanded the journal article. And bowling alone, I think, made us aware of the problem at the time. The problem is now, you know, we're not bowling alone. We're kind of being friendly, but we're really not back in the leagues yet. You know, a lot of the stuff that is offered, maybe the stuff I offer more than anything else, is pretty thin soup. You know, you may get together. It's sort of like the coffee hour at church. You know, it's superficial. Yeah, they'll never make the coffee hour at the church the eighth sacrament. I'll guarantee you that. It's really dreadful, and people endure it. They want to be friendly, but what happens there? Nothing. Nothing really happens at coffee hour at the church after the homily. Even if you didn't like the homily, you generally don't say anything about it. There's no discussion or debate. It's pathetic. And we've tried to offer something different where people could come and really put their cards on the table and try to help each other. And it's not turned into the community that I had envisioned the very, very beginning. And so, you know, I get mad at the church. Maybe it's really displacing anger I have at myself that I didn't do more starting 10 years ago, but better late than never. And but at any rate, the Small Business Chamber of Commerce encourages the formation of these Idea Cafe startup workshops. They're not brain surgery, that's for sure. They're very simple, but we encourage people to start those with their local chamber. And we also encourage the formation of peer advisory groups along the lines of what Ben Franklin did with his friends. This wasn't some consultant coming in and telling everybody what to do. That's the model today, whether it's Tech or Vistage, I think they call themselves now, or TAB, the Alternative Board, and there's a lot of others that charge a fee to bring people together, and it's this consultant there helping people know, and maybe, you know, a lot of those provide some good help. They keep rocking along. But the fact is, the small person starting out generally is not going to put their money into that kind of a thing. They're scared. They won't pay for anything. So the meetings that we've done have been all free and open to everybody as far as the Idea Cafe Startup Workshop. And then we encourage people to pull together groups with their friends. And I think some have. And some have charged a little bit of money compared to what Tech and Tab and the other leaders have charged. You know, it's been a lot less money. And I think maybe I had something to do with the formation of more of those kinds of groups. But we need to be more aggressive now, because it's clear that I guess the church is not going to do it. And I think this country would get back on solid footing if we could get a healthy small group in every neighborhood. You know, somebody said it takes a village to raise a child. I'm not sure about that, but it takes a neighborhood. And parents that care about their kids, if they're in a neighborhood that doesn't come together, they see their children suffer. And if you're seeing that, maybe there's a way to pull your neighborhood together. I'd like to try to help you do that. And what we're going to do, the working name for this effort will be Recover America. America is stuck right now. Edmund Phelps talks about this in his most recent book. Edmund Phelps, a Nobel Prize winning economist, in this most recent book, Mass Flourishing, looks at America at its best in America now, and we're stuck Used to be in this country, there was a dynamism, a vitalism that drove us forward. That's gone. It used to be that people would be driving to work and they'd be thinking about how they could do their job better, and they'd be having ideas. Well, that's certainly gone. 80% of people in the country today hate their job. You're not really thinking of a better way to do your job when you hate your job. And so this thin veneer of creativity that's put out as pure propaganda, Edmund Phelps says. Nobel Prize winning economist, mass flourishing, it's a fraud. You know, we come up with new games and cell phone apps and we call that being creative. Well, it's not compared to what this country used to be. Everybody trying to do their job better cannot be replaced by some staffer whose job it is to make things better. It's just crazy to think that that can happen. But that's the premise of American business today. It wasn't always this way. And we need to take back America. And not just startups, but in corporate America. There needs to be a radical change. We need to recover America. You know, the American dream wasn't just to own a business, although that's certainly a vital part of it. And business formation has fallen to embarrassingly low levels. And as a result, businesses with 10 to 100 employees, those small businesses that allow the leisure for the owner to get involved in politics, they're disappearing. You work for a corporation, you're not going to be involved politically unless you're a lobbyist. You're the paid gun for the corporation or part of his little network that he manipulates and controls. But being involved as a free citizen is very difficult when you're in a corporate environment. And so startups part of it, but part of it is what happens inside corporations to allow people to be free. And so restore, recover, whatever name we use, and recover, I think, is the right word, because it is a spiritual path, just like personal recovery is a spiritual path for most people. So is this recovering this vitalism and dynamism in America. It's going to be a spiritual path. Tremendous opportunity for the church. Who knows? Maybe this will wake the church up, because I think they really believed that once the argument got to the Supreme Court, that the politics would no longer matter. Well, clearly the politics with the Supreme Court do matter. Isn't that tragic? And, you know, whether it's my side or your side, whichever side gets gored, that's the one that screams. I don't know. I have no idea how we fix the Supreme Court, but I do have an idea of how we can restore the representative system that has made America strong in the past. And that's with what we have here in Colorado. We still have it, thank God. The precinct committees people are the key movers and shakers in Colorado for a little bit longer, because Senate Bill 287 was killed in committee. And thanks to Corky Kyle and myself and some others that got involved, that insanity, despite the support of all the leadership down at the Capitol on both sides of the aisle, we were able to stop it dead in its tracks. So we'll be having the Colorado caucus again in 2016. Now, whether we'll have it much beyond that depends on what happens in 2016. So our first effort will be in whatever group this is that we're putting together. It's an educational, whether we're a political entity or just strictly educational remains to be seen, because we want to not, you know, there's good people in both major political parties. And I think almost universally the people that get elected are good people. Now, they may not stay so good. You know, once they're now, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. We have a system that recognizes that. It's to keep people humble. And I think the people that are willing to serve in elected public office today are just about absolute saints. So I don't think that's where the problem is. I think the problem is at the grassroots level, in the neighborhoods, the people that are just throwing up their hands and walking away. Same as at work. You know, we've lost the vitalism and dynamism at work, but also in our political systems. And that's the engine that makes it hum. here in this country. You can't have a nation where you put the right guy in charge and everything's going to fall into place. Whether it's Barack Obama or George Bush or Harry Truman or whoever it is, it's an impossible job to be. But that's what we put all the focus on as president. And I think it's the people that would like to keep us powerless that do that. The same people that say, well, now, where's your research? Where's your written plan when you want to start something? Those are the same people that say, we need to elect the right president. That's what we need to focus on. Now, I think there needs to be a wake-up call for some of these idiots that run for president right off the bat without having ever served in elected public office. They want to start at president? Give me a break. What are they thinking of? Everybody should just laugh in those people's face. They should be stopped dead in their tracks in both parties. That is a crazy idea. Have any of our presidents done that other than George Washington? I don't think so. I think everybody else served. And being supreme commander of the French and American allied forces that defeated England, that was a pretty big task. Eisenhower, I guess, would fall into that category also. Maybe Jackson. Jackson's not a very good example. Grant, some say was one of the worst presidents we've ever had, although great guy, good writer. But general, and a doctor, I don't care how good the doctor is, or a billionaire, I don't care how good he is at making money, that's not served in elected public office is just not going to be able to do the job. Run for city council. Run for state legislature. Run for the House, the Senate. Do something before you run for president. Please, it's just a waste of time. I got a call from some poor lady this morning. I was trying to talk her into quitting her job working for some guy that's running for, what's he done? Well, really nothing, but did you see his speech? They're almost always a good speaker. And giving good speeches is great. That's wonderful. Go out and speak, but don't think that qualifies you to be president. But the problem is at the grassroots. We need to restore the grassroots if we're going to recover America. Recover America means restore the grassroots in both business and politics. This vitalism, dynamism in corporations, but also, you need to either be going up in the corporation or get out. It's like the military. You're either promoted or they say, this isn't what you ought to be doing with your life, and you're out. So it's up or out in corporations. Corporate experience is worth its weight in gold. You see the downside of corporations. I worked for one of maybe the largest company in the world, and they had a 13-volume set. They entered departmental manuals. It could tell you what you should be doing at that specific moment, whatever your job. It was bizarre. And but there is an efficiency, an economy of scale, and I'm not. Let's keep competition. And in some cases, the force or fraud is a little bit transparent. You can't quite see it with the naked eye. So there are some cases where I believe competition is not quite enough. I'm not one of these people that thinks we don't have need to have any kind of a government. So there in some cases there is a need for like this toxic. Well, even Alan Greenspan said, I never believed that would happen. Well, it happened, Mr. Greenspan. So maybe there is a little bit more that's needed other than competition. These toxic mortgages were rolled up. Those people were crooks. And, very few have been even slapped on the hand, but it may not be over yet. I'm hoping they continue to go forward as they pursue the people that hurt so many people so badly. Never have so few been so harmful to so many, and they ought to be held accountable. And now, the Recover America is going to be neighborhood oriented, and I think the starting neighborhood is going to be college campuses. College students will reach out. Will be oriented towards people that have had experience that want to share it with their neighbors. And it's not going to be Republicans. It's not going to be Democrats. It's going to be people who are willing to sort of be eunuchs for the process, that are willing in their neighborhood to reach out and help newcomers to Colorado, newcomers to their neighborhood, newcomers just to politics, understand how our wonderful Colorado caucus works, how we use the caucus assembly system to nominate to the primary ballot, and to help them understand why it is the very best hope for the average ordinary person, people like me, probably people like you, I don't know for sure, but perhaps people like you. It's the best chance the average ordinary person has of serving an elected public office, because it gives you leverage over time. Now, don't expect to get elected your first time at bat. Every 2 years, you need to plan on going. After you've gone once, you know what's happening. The second time, maybe you become a leader. Eventually, not the first time. I mean, I think it's good to get a little experience. Don't have unrealistic expectations of the system or of yourself, but get involved, stay involved, and eventually either run for public office yourself or help other good people get elected. And the best way to do that here in Colorado is through our wonderful neighborhood caucus. It happens every 2 years. 2016, it's coming up again. Get ready. And we want to recruit people in neighborhoods to help with that. And maybe we supplement it with some of these social media tools. But if people don't come together and sit down face to face, you're not really going to communicate what's most important to know about being involved in politics. Now, some people object to that, especially these direct democracy wonks. You know, everybody thinks we should sit in front of our computer and vote on every issue. We don't even need representatives. Let's just, with the computer today, we'll all decide. The problem with that is it becomes just ruled by the mob. And you can see how mob rule affects clear thinking. Most recent example of that's what happened in the Supreme Court today. That's insane what the Supreme Court did. No other reason to do that other than politics. There is no legitimate reason for them to have done what they did today. So in a way, I can understand the Catholic Church's thinking on this, but I guess they forgot what country we live in, because we are a political country, and we are an experiment still. Can power be put in the hands of people as opposed to just the monarch ruling? It's kind of one extreme or the other, really, when you stop and think about it. The Magna Carta celebrated its 800th anniversary, and it established this idea that maybe we should trust the laws rather than the king. It's sort of the divine nature of the legal system as opposed to the divine right of kings. And King John did not want to sign it, so the Vatican says it wasn't valid. So it went through 10 years until it really became really a relevant force. So we say it was 800 years ago. Well, it's really, you know, it was 790 years ago is what we were celebrating. And 10 more years we'll be celebrating the 800th. There's a Magna Carta Park here in Denver. We're going to meet there on June 15th, every June 15th between now and 10 years from now, if we're all still alive. We'll celebrate the 800th real anniversary of the Magna Carta at that time. And it's going to take 10 years, I think, for people to understand why it's so important. Can you imagine the Denver Post, Wall Street Journal, a lot of newspapers just totally missed the story, had nothing. Then the Wall Street Journal the following day writes an article about how the Magna Carta is not really all that important. Oh, okay. You know, I think they're just kind of covering up for their own ineptitude, missing one of the big stories. What's 25 after Small Business Chamber of Commerce? We encourage you to get together with your friends in your neighborhood, business associates where you work, and you know, two heads are better than one if the heads are kind of headed in the right direction. We have a way of doing meetings that seems to be helpful. If you'd like to experience it, we've got a free meeting here in Denver, 2 o'clock every Friday afternoon at Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant. It's very informal. We just sit out right in the middle of the cafe. I think we're moving back into the hospitality room. The doors are off, but we're moving back in there. It seems to be a little bit quieter. I usually wear my red hat of some sort. It says Denver on the front right now. And we share about our startup experience, and we sort of have a brainstorming type technique that we use that people find helpful. And it's not to have another meeting that you're obligated to going to every week. Now, if you want to come every week, we're delighted. We'd like to have a core group, and once the core group gets too big, then we'll split off and form another one. But if you're traveling to Denver, stop by and see us. Check with your tax advisor, but it might have some tax implications for your trip. Every Friday, 2 o'clock, Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant. We're just about a block from the Colorado State Capitol. So if you're from out of town, you can tie it in with a tour of our beautiful capital. It's two-toned now. You know, it's sort of like wearing saddle shoes. So they repainted the top half. It's totally out of sync with the bottom half. But the emperor wears no clothes. No one will even breathe a word of criticism about this. They do at private parties. They talk to each other, but our current governor has everybody under his spell. I don't know how he does it. I actually kind of admire him for being able to do that in some ways, except for the disastrous effect of some of his policies. The worst is in Denver. He had this idea of eliminating homelessness. Well, that worked well, didn't it? Now we're just coated with homeless people in downtown Denver. And something's happening there that is not good. Bob Cote and John Stossel took a close look at the Philadelphia plan, looked at how terrible it was, and that's what we brought here to Denver. We got the Philadelphia plan that is so deadly for the homeless, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper, it attracts more, it's a growing population, we're killing more, but everybody just looks the other way. And on some of these issues, the reason, and newspapers are disappearing. Well, you know, why do you think that is? It's because the crazy papers are taking these political positions that just let the guys that are smart do it. And I'll guarantee you, if you put that message out, people are going to think, well, why do I even read the paper if it doesn't make any difference what I do? And this country was founded on this unique principle that the power should be in a common person, but not allowing mob rule, but to select representatives. And we have this tremendous representative system now when it's working right. And it's not who's in office now at any level. It's what's happening at the grassroots level. So if you'd like to help restore America, recover America, we'd sure like to have your help. And we'll be back here next Friday to talk about it more. If you'd like to be on the show here and share your views, call us Monday or Tuesday is the best time to call. Number's 303-861-1447. That's 303-861-1447. Or see us this afternoon, Panera Bread Cafe at 2 o'clock. And, you know, one thing we know for sure, well, a couple of things, actually. You know, this life's too short to live in Houston. I thought that I'm trying to talk my daughter and son-in-law into moving back to Colorado, and they're in Houston right now. So that's sort of a joke. And Houston has its good sides, qualities too, but life's too short for a lot of things. And, you know, if you're thinking of playing a part in recovering America, this life is way too short. So let's get started now. Maybe I'll see you this afternoon, 2 o'clock, Panera Bread, or here next Friday, or anytime by recording, johnwren.com. Thanks for watching.